Hi everyone, it's Alex from Mentoring Effect, and I have with me a very special guest, and it's Mike Woeckener from USA, Colorado. Hey Mike, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm very well. What's the time in Colorado?
All right, now it's about 7 minutes after 6 in the evening here.
Oh, great. Yeah, we have fresh morning here in
Well,
Australia.
good morning to you.
Thank you very much. I invited you because your email was really amazing, and I would love to share your story with people because I think you have a lot of interesting things that you overcome and you were going through your life. And if you can give us just short overview, how did you become what you are now? And yeah, just something about you.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I was actually born in Colorado, born in Denver. My father, we moved 4 times before I graduated our high school here in the U.S. I lived in Colorado for 4 years, which I don't remember much of because I was small. And then we moved to upstate New York, a town called Binghamton, which is not in the city, it's in the upper part of the state. Lived there for a couple of years. I did most of my growing in New Jersey, near a little town called New Brunswick, which is not too far from Manhattan, New York.
Oh yeah,
And
nice.
then when I was 16, we moved to South Florida in between Miami and Fort Lauderdale, and that's where I completed high school. And then when I completed high school, I went directly into the United States Air Force. I served as an air traffic controller for 21 years and a couple of months. And along the way, I got my bachelor's degree, and that while I was active duty. And I've done a bunch of things since then. In fact, it's been 20 years and some change since I actually left the Air Force. So I've bounced quite a bit. I spent significant time in 41 of our US states out of 50, and I've been to 18 foreign countries and actually lived in Germany for a while in the Air Force. And yeah, it's been an interesting ride, very interesting ride. I'm
Yeah.
the father of 8 children. I have three daughters and 5 sons, and I have 4 grandchildren, 2 of each.
Oh,
So
huge family.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's amazing.
it was fun when there were 10 of us in the house. Yeah, when they were growing up. So yeah,
I can imagine, yeah. Um, yeah, it's amazing because you travel a lot and you probably moved a lot and you experience different cultures, I guess, and different places. Is there anything like probably significant that you would like to share with us from your traveling journey or moving around journey?
well, one of the most interesting places I ever went to was Saudi Arabia. I actually got to spend 93 days and about 4.5 hours there when I was in the military.
Wow.
Um, and that what was interesting and fascinating to me about the culture in Saudi Arabia is their culture and the Muslim religion are the same. It's the only place I've been to where they were fully integrated into their religion. And I arrived in the middle of the night and I was just laying down to get a few hours of sleep when I heard the morning call to prayer.
Yeah,
And I had never heard that because they play it over loudspeakers.
yeah,
But I was very curious because I'd never been I knew a little bit of what Islam was, but very, very high level. And so I had some of the people I worked with the Saudi Arabians, and they actually gave me some education onto how their culture operated, and all about the multiple marriages and their spirit of hospitality. And it was very eye opening. I learned, I gained an appreciation for the way that they live, and it's very much different than the American culture that I was brought up and
yeah.
raised in. So
Yeah, it's actually very interesting because when I moved to Thailand, that was same thing. Because when you work in a kind of similar environment, like when you're working in Europe in different countries, it's almost like the same. But when you are moving to different culture, that's shocking. It's always
mhm.
eye-opening, how you said. It's
Yeah,
amazing how like we feel inside that we grow. Like it's just so much learning. And yeah, that's very interesting. And I think you mentioned that you were in Africa as well. It was during your military journey or it was after?
no, it was after. I actually was there in 2013. I worked for Anadarko Petroleum Company. They were developing a natural gas field of natural gas that they had found off the coast of Mozambique, Africa, in between Mozambique and Madagascar. And that was also a very really rich experience, because at the time they were the third poorest country in the world. Their average per capita income per family per year was roughly $650.
Oh, gosh.
And so I actually got to see, some what first world countries they would call it abject poverty. But the interesting part for me about my experiences there, and I'm going to relate a story to you. There was a gentleman who I got to know because I was working as a technical writer, and so I had to interview all of the people, department heads and all, and most of them were from Mozambique, and they were actually operating on their fourth language. They had their tribal language, they had their village language, then they had the country language of Portuguese, and then they had learned English. And so I was looking to go find some gifts for some of my family before I went home. And I was talking to one of these gentlemen. He says, "Well, what are you doing on Saturday?" And I was on a 7-day-a-week work schedule. And so I told him I can probably break away. And he says, "Can you leave around 10 o'clock?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "I will pick you up at the main gate." And so he pulled up in his own car, and he took me around to 3 shops. 2 of them were owned by cousins of his. And he just went out of his way to help me, because we weren't allowed to drive on our own. But he actually went and negotiated prices. I couldn't understand what he was saying because he was talking in his language. But the thing that was most interesting to me about their culture is they were by and large very, very happy. They seemed to be always smiling, even the people that were walking down the road with a bundle of branches on top of their head.
Yeah.
And they just had a very, very wonderful outlook on life. So it was a neat place to visit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned Africa, because I was always thinking to have some children in Africa, because I know there's a lot of very poor places.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lady that just connected me recently. She connected me through Instagram that I'm not even using that much. And she sent me some pictures, and we talk, and we sending to each other videos. And I see those kids just living, on the ground, and
Mm-hmm.
really like just the same clothes, They sleep in the same clothes. They walk. They do stuff
Mm-hmm.
in the same clothes, and they don't have anything. And yeah, she's only one. She's taking care of orphanage. She has like a phone. That's all basically what probably
Wow.
she can communicate with world.
Mm-hmm.
And they had like I think they were doing, I asked her what they were doing yesterday, and they said like, we just walk for the water because the water is far away. And I spoke with my nephew, because it's very interesting how, kids now, they want to have another laptop, another phone, and it's just all about, really, it's very material world. And it was amazing. I showed him pictures, and I said, look, this is what they have, and we should rather help them to do something nice, like to think about another phone, or another new
Mm-hmm.
thing. And it was really nice, because he's just 11 years old, and he was like, yeah, that's probably true. Like, and I was so silly, because I was thinking about my second laptop. And he
Yeah.
actually said that, and I was amazed, because we don't see that, and nobody's showing that to kids, and nobody's
No.
actually growing or raising the kids with that kind of knowledge, that not everyone is the same, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of differences in the world. And I think that's amazing, and I hope, yeah, my mission will be probably sometimes, and maybe ending up there and helping them. But yeah, it's a long journey, and I'm really happy that you have experience, and you shared
Yeah.
the experience from Africa with us.
Yeah.
I'm more
If I
curious.
might, one of the most vivid images that I will take back and forever know. I was riding in a 4-wheel drive vehicle, and what the company had done is they had hired locals to widen footpaths and turn them into roads. And this road footpath that they were expanding was only accessible by 4-wheel drive vehicle, because the sand was very soft. And we had gone and done a tour of some of the camps where they were getting ready to build the natural gas plant. And on our way out, there were these two ladies standing on the side of the road, and one of them had a little bundle of cloth on top of her head because they carry everything on top of their head.
Yes. Yeah.
And the one standing next to her had a pair of rubber flip-flops on her head. And it struck me as odd because I would think you would be wearing them on your feet. And then it occurred to me, well, that was probably a luxury for her because she was walking in soft sand, so she didn't need them. And she was probably waiting to put them on when she got onto the hard pack road. And I was living in Houston at the time, and I went home not long after that. And there was a group of ladies at the church I attended, and they were just complaining about their pedicures and how terrible their pedicures were. And so I related this story to them about the lady with the pair of flip-flops, and they just they didn't complain too much about their pedicures after that. It was, but the key for me about traveling, and you're well traveled as well, you told me that you've lived in several countries, is that you get a perspective on outside of where you were grown and outside of where you were born. And it just, I believe it's more of education than somebody that has stayed within like a 20-mile radius or where they live, or even just stayed inside of America.
Yeah, definitely. I absolutely agree, because I can see their families, and I can see even part of my family, they're traveling always to countries, just to go for touristic experience, like just as a tourist, like the same hotel, 4 or 5-star hotel. And it's the same thing. It's just the pool and the building and the beach, and basically people from a neighborhood going together. But the real traveling, I said, like kids, they need to really experience that, because that's like real walking, around the street, even in Thailand, in Bali, or anywhere in poorest countries. It's just so different. And I think people should experience that, exactly, just to really make them think out of the box, I would say, because we are all boxed, and we just see the thing that is in front of us. But anyway, I'm really interested into, like, you were 21 years in military. How, or what was the decision why you left, and what was the next, like, how did you came out with, like, next plan or next job? Or
well, in the U.S. military, after you serve for 20 years, you're actually eligible to retire. And retirement, they say that in quotes, because you get a pension, which is, at the time, if you serve for 20 years, it's half of what your base pay is. And that's not enough for most people. I mean, a lot of the officers and some of the senior enlisted people actually serve for 30 years or longer, and they do truly retire. But I had reached a crossroads in my life. I was actually coming out of my first marriage, which was kind of heartbreaking for me. And I just got a very strong impression that it was time for me to go out into the world, and kind of, I call it graduating from the Air Force, because I graduated from high school, went in the Air Force, and then I graduated from the Air Force. And okay, now that I've graduated from the Air Force, what do I do? And I was actually very fortunate. I got a job working in software development, doing work on air traffic control systems. And I did that for many different places. I actually traveled and did site support at some of the air traffic control facilities, as well as doing the software development in a lab and things of that nature. So that took me around. I actually went to 5 different, they call them air traffic control centers, or en route air traffic control centers here. And they're the ones that control the jets that are very high up in the air, that are crossing across the top of everything. So, and the interesting part about that is every place that I went, I actually reconnected with people that I had worked with while I was in the Air Force, that had left the Air Force earlier and became air traffic controllers. So it's kind of like, this is really a small world. But that was another good way to see more of America. And I actually ended up back here in Colorado for a while.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of nice.
That means that was kind of, I would say, a little bit similar role, or it was kind of continuing in the same thing. But what was because you said you are very passionate about entrepreneurship. And that's something that I'm just really waiting. Where is that, point that you said, okay, it's enough, and I just want to get out of this?
Well, all along my career in the Air Force, because they don't pay you very much. At least they didn't when I was in as an enlisted person. I was always looking for, if the common term here in America is called a side hustle. I was looking for something I could do part-time that wasn't like a second job. And I did work some second jobs, but I was looking to start a business where I could earn money from home.
Yeah.
And I had, middling to some medium success with those. And my idea was always to be able to leave the Air Force and work these businesses on my own. But I look back at that now as entrepreneurship training, because I learned the value of reading good books. I learned the value of who you associate with is very,
Yes.
very important.
Yeah.
I learned the value of mentorship. I have 2 or 3 mentors that I had met in these businesses, and one I still keep in touch with. He's a very, very successful. He's actually a medical doctor. He's got 7 degrees, and he still treats people, but he doesn't have a medical practice. In fact, he told me that he actually treats more people now than he did when he had his medical practice, which is interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that he always, in fact, I smile because he says, Mike, wear a smile and wear it out. And that's one of those little, and see, it worked on you too. You smiled as well. So but he's a very wise guy, and he's got a lot of education. He's very, very intelligent. And in fact, his nickname for the group that I was in with him was Webster, because he always came up with these really big words. And what exactly does that mean, But that was, like I said, the value of mentorship and the value of, one of my mentors right now is a gentleman by the name of Bob Proctor, and some people know him, some people don't. He was actually in the movie The Secret, if anybody is familiar with that reference. Yeah. And I learned from him, and I went through a coaching program through his company. And most of it was done by him and some other people that he associates with. But the value that I learned from him and the habit that I created or adopted from him is I do personal development study every single day.
Yeah, that's important.
7 days a week, and it's all about mindset.
Yeah.
I've done digital marketing, and one of the stories that I heard is this gentleman was learning digital marketing. He's placing ads, and he's getting very little to no results. And he goes to a seminar, and he actually met his mentor for the first time, and he got very angry at this man because I'm doing everything you told me, and I'm not getting the results I need. And his mentor's just he's just calmly waiting for him to finish his tirade. And he just looked at him and he said, your mindset is terrible, man. You need to shift your mindset.
I said so true. I'm actually happy. Yeah, you said that mentors and actually coaches are very important, because some people still don't understand why we are all here, and I think it's very important. Sorry, I just stopped you to.
No problem. So the net result, he went to this 3-day seminar, and he actually spent time with his mentor, and he listened more than he talked. And before he had left, he had an ad that was not doing well, and he had taken it off and turned it off. And when he went back home with a shift of mindset from I need to earn money now to I just want to serve people and see how many people I can serve, because what I'm offering them is something that's really going to benefit them.
Yeah.
He turned that same ad, no changes at all, same audience, same target, same parameters. He turned that back on, and he had his first $10,000 a month because he had changed his mindset.
Yeah. Just to talk to audience different way, and also people can feel it even if it's through online digital marketing. I'm saying people can feel it where you're coming from. But that was my question as well, because you mentioned that you started to work with mentors. But first, maybe what I noticed when you said that you came from employment to entrepreneurship, that was more like you just wanted to build side hustle because there was not enough money. That I guess that first motivation was about money, like, because we all have that. But when that, like a point of a breakdown came, like when you actually realized that it's not about money, but you're really passionate about something.
That actually pretty much coincided with me starting digital marketing, because the training company that I became affiliated with and learned how to do digital marketing through, they have what's called the 5 pillars, and it's all about mindset. It's good audio, good video, good, you know, masterminding, good books, things of that nature. And they also talk about consistency and marketing every single day and things of that nature. And so that is where I learned that and through the program the Bob Proctor program that I went through. Just your mind is very, very powerful. It's basically limitless. And the wonderful thing about everybody is that everybody that's listening to this or watching this, you have perfection inside of you.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. That's really nice, well said, because I exactly believe that. I'm actually reading the book Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill, because that's I guess it's a second time I'm always coming back, and I'm always coming back through the chapters, because it's very different book. It's giving you some tools, and it's exactly about the mind, and I can see the difference because I had 2 businesses basically this year. I still have, but because of the events, they were all canceled. That just basically went to the zero. That means our major income from events is gone. But my mentoring effect is kind of, that was my side hustle first, because I really enjoyed it. And I just wanted to do it as a hobby, or maybe just, I play around. But exactly when I changed the mindset and I realized actually I can help people, because everybody who tried my course or tried some work with me, they actually had really different results and huge results, like really positive results. And I was thinking, like, why I'm just playing. And I was reading the book, and I was like, I can do a lot. Like, it's just about mindset, because I was still putting that as a, side hustle. And it's interesting how mind is working, even with the energy. I guess you had also different energies when you came, or when you were employed. And after that, when you started to work for yourself, I would like to ask about the real passion about what in digital marketing, or what actually is really passionate, or what you're passionate about, sorry, in your digital marketing. What do you do?
Well, I'm primarily doing social media marketing, and I've actually started reaching out to business owners to serve them. I've learned how to do some pretty decent copywriting. At least that's what my peers tell me when they read my stuff before I send it out. Wow,
Yeah,
that's pretty good. And
I want to read that.
yeah, well, I've had my last career was actually as a technical writer, and technical writing is kind of like work, and creative writing is kind of like fun. So
Yeah, I
in fact,
can hear that.
yeah, when I started learning how to copyright, I had a mentor who was teaching me how to write, and he said, you need to dumb down your language. You're a really good writer, but all of these 3 and 4 syllable words just aren't gonna fly. And so he actually gave me a compliment, and then he said, this is, until you get down to where, one of your grandchildren can read this and understand
Oh,
it,
that's
that's
amazing.
where you need to be.
Uh,
And that's the same way in verbal communication. I mean, we all have a common vocabulary of about 200 words, and that's it.
yeah.
And same in conversation. I mean, if you're speaking at a level that's above your audience, and that's the other important thing, is you have to know
It's
your
so
audience.
important. Yeah. That's actually what I'm like. I'm trying to run some live events around that, like the signature talk and your marketing message. And
Mhm.
and people really struggle. That's actually biggest struggle, I would say, when people talk their language. And I always try to point it out. Like, I don't understand what you're talking about.
Mhm.
Try to speak with me, like talk to me the way that I'm your child, or I'm really like that woman, like 30 or 25 years old woman that actually doesn't have any idea about marketing. Like, I don't
Mhm.
even know what the word digital marketing means. Like, I've tried to really push them that hard, like that away, like really go out of your box of marketing or branding or other different industries. Because I said people can't understand, because your language is already on top, or is somewhere else, because you learn a
Mhm.
lot, you study, and probably you as well, you have a lot of mentors, you have a lot of experience, that
Mhm.
probably when you start to speak with your language or technical language, or when you're writing, that has to be something like I wouldn't understand probably.
Well, I
Yeah.
help translate what the mechanical and electrical engineers write to something that
But
non-engineers can actually read and understand. So that's one of the fun parts of my job is I
yeah,
actually get to, do some changing and things of that
yeah,
nature. But it's the main, the main thing that I've learned, and I know this to be true because I've exercised it. If you want to be the best, whatever your pursuit is, entrepreneurship, whatever type of business you're looking for, be it like a brick and mortar flower shop or a bakery, or if you're wanting to do something digitally, find somebody that has done what you aspire to do and plug in and learn from them. That's straight out of the Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins playbook, by
yeah.
the way.
But
But
it's
it's
yeah,
absolutely true. It's absolutely true. You can accelerate your learning
yeah,
by learning directly from somebody. And
yeah,
so what I found that works really well, because I've done this, is I just go up to people that I admire from a point of view of service. What can I do to help you? How can I serve you? And they'll kind of some will kind of like, oh, I don't really need your help and all. And I said, well, if you'd like me to do, you know, you actually have to bring some value into the equation. Like,
yes,
if you would like me to write some copy for you, or if you would like me to review what your copywriter's doing or what you're writing, or whatever you have that you're very skilled at, you can actually add value to somebody who's very, very busy. Maybe they don't want to write their own copy anymore.
yeah,
And if you are adding value by saying, I will do this for you, for free, and just kind of help you out, and if it proves to be of value, then they will, oftentimes they will say, well, I'd like to see if you can do this for me and something else or something else. So it's a progression, but you have to come in with not expecting any type of a payment in return, because what you're looking for or what you're asking for is their knowledge imparted to you.
yeah.
So,
No, this is amazing. I absolutely agree. Also, when I have clients, I'm always asking them to find the groups, find people that are doing same thing, or find your
mhm,
actually audience where they are at, because there's so many opportunities on social media. And I said, ask them questions, check what they need, just to be sure that you know what actually value, what they need from
mhm.
you, how you can actually help them in general. Because it's after that, it's so easy to think about marketing copy and like all that messaging and actually even services. You can change service or product if you know what people actually need. And yeah, I think that's very important. And like you said at the beginning, just listening, more listening than talking. I think that's very important. When you think about like, I know you said you had mentors and coaches and you read a lot of books. What else is helping you to be successful? Do you have any habits that you can share with us, or kind of
Well,
routine?
one of the things that I've found, I actually do a seminar on this, by the way.
Cool.
I talked to the title of the seminar is Your Morning Routine,
Nice.
and it is, foundation for your success. And this is one of the things I've read biographies, I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and every person that has achieved any amount of success starts their day off with a very, very structured morning routine.
Yes, I agree.
And
Absolutely.
and my morning routine, some people, I've outlined this for several people. I outlined this in my seminar, and mine is about a 2 to 2.5 hour process. And people just kind of, they shake their heads. Some of them go, "Man, you're crazy."
No, I don't think you're crazy, actually. I
Well,
agree.
one of the motivators for me doing this was, this is something that I've learned. I've added pieces, and I interchange some in and out, to get where I am. But I have a very good friend of mine. I'm an avid cyclist. I rode 72 miles on my bicycle yesterday. But one of my cycling partners, she happens to be a lady, and her idea of a morning routine is she hits the snooze button 3 or 4 times and gets up in just enough time to throw some clothes on, wash her face, put her hair back before she has to plug into her first meeting. And she talks about running around all day long. And I'm just listening to this going, well, so you're starting your morning with stress because every time the alarm goes off, that's a stressor, and you're doing this 3 or 4 times, so you're getting the, dose of all this stuff. And then you wonder why you feel so stressed at the end of your day. You're starting your day stressed out.
Yes.
So, for me, it is mindset, and it's also getting your physical body moving, and
Yeah.
a combination of a bunch of different things. And I've taken some lessons that I've learned from specific people, and the best advice that I've heard, because they talk about changing habits, and if somebody is like, oh, I can't get up early in the morning, well, the best piece
Advice.
of advice I heard about that is, let's just say you get up, you're rising at 8 o'clock in the morning, and that's what time you get up. Well, you set your alarm for 7:45, and you wake up 15 minutes earlier, and you do that for a week, and the next week you would set it for 7:30, and that way you're gradually getting your body used to waking up. My body clock is so well set. I'm awake between 4 and 4:30 in the morning, whether I want to be or not.
Yeah. I
And
have
it
5.
doesn't. Yeah, there you go. And it doesn't matter if you went to bed at 2 a.m. because
Yeah.
I've done that, and I'm like, already? Oh man. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the things that I just started doing, which I find really beneficial. I call it a gratitude walk. And I get up first thing in the morning, get dressed. I read a series of affirmations and read my goals. And then I go out the door, and I go for about a 15-minute walk. And first thing it does, it gets me out. And lately it's been pretty cool here in Colorado. So you immediately get a blast of cold air, and that wakes you up. Yeah.
It's cold here in the
Beautiful.
morning.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. But it's equal parts of doing auto-suggestion, which from Think and Grow Rich, and that's essentially just repeating your goal
Yeah.
over and over again and telling your subconscious mind, this is what I want to do, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And it's also gratitude. You're being grateful for what you have, and then several really simple affirmations. My favorite one during this walk is, every day in every way I am becoming more and more successful.
That's
And
beauty.
that is something that you can repeat as often as you want to throughout the day.
Yeah. That's
Um,
Yeah, they're very important techniques, because I struggled last 3 years because we were going through IVF and all this, like a personal journey. It was really hard to keep going in businesses and still do studies and a lot of other work, and I sometimes I just really couldn't wake up, and I was very down, it's kind of natural with hormones and changing. Your body's changing, your mindset is changing with hormones, and I that was like first time in my life I just felt like I'm nothing, like really that self-confidence went down, and I
mm,
didn't have problem in my life. And when this is coming in your 40s, you're like, something is wrong, maybe is that coming with age, I don't know. And I read a lot about even like a changing your posture, and just do like a 2-3 minutes or 5 minutes walk, and think about when was the time you felt so confident and great about yourself, and just walking and feeling that, and just go into that moment. That means anytime when I felt really down, I just went to that moment when I felt actually really great about my work, about myself. It was really good moment in my life. I always went there, and actually I really felt that. That was so funny how that vibration and energy, it was actually going through my body, and I felt so good. And it changed. Like I was really sitting, and I was actually feeling more confident. And I think it's so important to, like you said, affirmations or gratefulness, all that things. It's kind of exercise our mind and our mindset for a day. And it's changing the energy and vibration in our body as well. And I guess that's most important for success, because I didn't really see anyone very successful running around like crazy, and probably they have some money, but I don't know what success really mean. I don't think it's all about money. I think it's more about really be free and be happy. But what success means for you, I would like to know.
well, one of my favorite movies is a movie called Cool Runnings. I don't know if you've seen it.
No.
It's about the Jamaican bobsled team in the
Ah,
Calgary Olympics. And John Candy plays their coach. And so anyway,
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
they named their sled Cool Runnings. And what that phrase means in Jamaica is peace for the journey. And so success for me is helping as many people as you can have peace for the journey.
That's
And
nice.
it's one of the things that I've learned not that long ago is the purpose of goals. The purpose of goals is not necessarily to achieve what you set out to achieve. It is the person that you become along the way of achieving that goal.
Yeah. It's more about journey, like to
Mhm,
that final destination. That's what I'm trying to talk to people always about, because
mhm.
it's so important to enjoying the journey, because it's
Yes.
not going to happen because people think they can become successful or they can have 1 million or $2 million in 2 months. It's just kind of not possible. It's probably possible when you have different businesses, but we're talking about small and medium-sized businesses, and it's quite hard to jump that big step, from making zero to making 500,000 a month. I mean, that's why I'm always trying to say people just enjoy the journey, because it's step-by-step process,
Mhm,
and you also need to evolve and be prepared for that money as well, because some people don't understand if they will have that money on account, they are still same, they will probably spend them, and they will probably don't do the right thing with them. And
mhm.
it's just so many things inside of that journey, I guess, what we learn. That yeah, I absolutely agree. uh, let's say something for the end. Do you have any book recommendation or something at the end what you would like to tell the audience?
Yeah, I absolutely do. Um, and this comes from an interview that of Bob Proctor in a magazine several years ago. And he was actually one of the questions in this interview was, so Bob Proctor, you say you read a lot. What are your top 3 books? And he's got a library of somewhere between 3,500, 4,000 books. It's a pretty famous library. And he actually called out the one that you're reading right now, Think and Grow Rich. I actually am reading it through myself. I did a lot of study, like, okay, your assignment for this month is to read the chapter on persistence every day for 30 days. And each one of these chapters has got valuable lessons in it, so it can stand on its own. But that's one of them. But the one that I found is probably the most profound. It's kind of like there's a phrase called it's the biggest bang for your buck, if you will. It is a book entitled U Squared. It's like YOU with 2, the exponent. And it's about quantum leaps or having very, very big success and not necessarily following a logical pattern to get there. But this is written by a gentleman by the name of Bryce Pritchett, and it is a grand total of 35 pages long. But it is so good and so deep. It's one of these where you can read a chapter and then you can just pause. And every time you reread the same chapter, it's kind of like the chapters in Think and Grow Rich. You read them
Yeah.
multiple times and you will get more out of them every time you read them. But this one, the reason why it really resonates with me, for one, like I said, it's a very quick read if you want it to be.
Yeah.
But it's one of these, it's very, very, seemingly thin, but it's also very, very deep. And the other one that kind of goes along with this is As a Man Thinketh. It was written in 1903 by the gentleman by the name of James Allen. And this is also it's not a very thick book either, but it actually teaches you, if you pay attention and you study it, it will teach you how to think.
Yeah, that's great.
And
I think,
it's all about monitoring your thoughts and what you allow to enter your subconscious mind and what you keep away
yeah,
from your subconscious mind.
this will be actually great for, because my one of my courses, first courses, is Quantum Leap. That's funny that you
Oh,
say that.
very
And
nice.
that will be probably something I will ask you to share the name of the books, and I will write it down, because it's probably something that can help me to maybe a little bit grow that program as well. And actually,
Sure.
it's more about learning more, because it's based exactly on that, on your thoughts, how you can change your thoughts, and it's all about resistance. Like when you're working or living your life in resistance, it's really hard, you know, to achieve something. And we are in the negative thoughts, and this is all just kind of go out from there and just coming from love. Can always come from love and compassion, and I think that's it's a huge change for a lot of people. I can see it's different, you know. It's changing your relationships, it's changing your relationship with family, with partner, your work. Yeah, it's that's another huge conversation. I would love that.
Well,
Yeah.
the opening story in this book is really brief. So Price Pritchett is in a hotel room, and the door's open, and he's just doing some studying, and he hears a fly, and the fly is trying to get outside by flying through a pane of glass in the window. And he's trying harder and harder and harder, and he's encountering all this resistance, where if he just moved 5 feet to the right, he could have flown out the door because the door was open. And the point of the story is, it's not about increasing your amount of effort or force or trying to force things. It's all about letting things come. And I read an analogy, and I use it. It's along the same lines, and it's the comparison between a stream and a river. A stream starts very up, very high. There's very little water, and the stream flows around the rocks, around the logs, around whatever obstacles in the way of the water, because it seeks the path of least resistance. And once enough streams get together and become into this river, then the river just flows right over all of these obstacles because it's got sufficient water. And so the point behind this is, don't try and knock down obstacles. Figure out a way to go either over them or around them, and your journey will be a lot better if you just seek and find the way around the obstacles.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a lot of people that overcome same things, and we know in the I would say in that kind of journey, you know, when you starting with nothing and you want to become entrepreneur and you really enjoy that. I guess there's million people that have same experience and they're already higher and they're better. Why to don't ask them? And that's what I'm always saying. Just really seek the knowledge and exactly some advice. And yeah, that's really well said. I really like that. Even when you think about the fly, you know, it's just really use the brain and come from ease. Just take it easy. Just don't try to push over everything. If it's not going, probably there is another way, I guess. Because when you're pushing so hard, I always say like if something is wrong. Because when you have your journey, it should be a little bit easier because you know there are just obstacles and things that you need to overcome. But it shouldn't be like to really try to push through the glass that you know you never will go through.
Yeah, I just learned a term a couple of days ago from a gentleman. We were both working as air traffic controllers in the Air Force, and he's become an author. He's actually has a couple of books, personal development books that are published, and he calls his ideal, you know, the way that he wants to live his life, his happy path.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And
I
I'm
like
like,
that.
I like that. Yeah, we connect periodically, and you know, he just happened to see my event for the seminar that I did on Saturday, and he made a comment underneath. And so, the one thing that that I've learned that will help you avoid these obstacles is you have to pay attention to your intuition.
Yes.
Your
Yeah,
intuition is
that's
extremely powerful. And I actually put this to the test one time because I was learning about the mental faculties, and they said if you're going down the road and you just feel this impression you need to turn left, then you should do that.
yeah.
And so I was on my way to a retail store, and I was going to the one that I typically go to, and I just felt an impression, okay, you need to go to the one in this other town. And I'm kind of like, oh, really? It's the same store. And so I went a couple of, you know, roads past where I could have turned left, and I got to think, okay, okay, I'm gonna follow my intuition. And so I ended up going down to this other retail store, and I'm in the men's department, and I'm looking for a pair of trousers, and there was a woman and her daughter, and they were looking for a sport coat for her husband, the daughter's father. And I was listening to them talk while I was kind of searching around in the same area, and the young lady, the daughter, actually mentioned she actually had a job interview. And so I got very curious because I've done a lot of contract work, so I had done a lot of interviewing. And so I just asked her, I said, can you mind if I ask it, what's your interview, what are you looking for? And she said, well, it's not really what I want to do, but it sounds like it'd be okay for a while. And she had recently graduated college. And so I was able to actually talk to her, and I gave her some information based on my experience about how to interview. And if I have no doubt that she probably did really well, because she was very, very articulate, and she kept good eye contact and all the wonderful traits you need. But I just look at that as, if I had not followed my intuition, I would not have had that encounter with that young woman. And it's the same thing. You could be doing something like that, and you go to a totally different place, and you find out that if you would have kept along the same path, there was like a 10-car pileup on the interstate if you didn't take that exit that you took because you followed your intuition. I've heard stories about that happening all the time. Like, your car breaks down, and first you think it's a bad thing, and then that, you avoided some type of a catastrophic thing because your car broke down. And so the lesson in all of that is, no matter what happens along your way, you need to take a look at it from the perspective of, well, this happened. What was good about it?
Yes, that's so true. I absolutely agree. It's so important to see things from a good side as well, because we usually see the bad side first. It's kind of that unconscious mind that is working, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that is always coming first. And we are all like, oh, that was bad, that was wrong. And, and exactly. And intuition is very interesting, because I'm actually trying to work on that, and I really listen a little bit more. And it's funny because I saw that last 3 years, my intuition was actually telling me that I shouldn't do what I was doing. And I was still like trying to really fight it. I went through everything, and it's like, no, I can do it. Even I knew it's not going to work that way. And it's funny that the day I made decision, I said, is enough. I'm not doing that this way. I'm done. Everything changed actually to really amazing life. And actually I started to feel happy, and it felt like I found myself. That means sometimes just to really listen to yourself, or listen or connect, to your intuition. It's just something amazing that can happen inside. Yeah, I'm really happy that you mentioned that, because I think it's very important, especially in life, but in business as well. Yeah.
Well, the best description that I've heard of what intuition is you pray to God or universe or spirit or whatever you relate to, and your intuition is the communication back to you. So you're actually receiving the answers to your requests by following your intuition. So that's one of those things that's pretty powerful.
I will definitely try that.
Yeah. So, and you just illustrated a very good point about the power of decision.
Yeah.
And a decision is extremely powerful. And that's when you set your intention that I am going to do this no matter what. I don't care what gets in my way. I will get there, and I will do, I have decided that I am going to do this, whatever that may be. In your case, you made a decision. You said, darn it, it's time for me to leave this and go here. And then you just walked right on your happy path. And that's why because that was where you were supposed to go.
Yeah, I think that's great. Actually, I would say it's a kind of example, because that sometimes happens with friends, when you're going somewhere, and there was already plan set up, there was decision made, you're going there, and something happened on the way, and everybody's like, oh, we should try that. And all that journey or that day always become a mess. It's just, and I don't know why, but it's always happening, because there's like too many things, too many ideas, and it was like, that first decision was, we're doing that. And yeah, and it's like all day is wrecked. not good.
Oh, and in the digital marketing world, they actually have a term for that. It's called the shiny object syndrome.
Ah, yes, I know that one.
Yeah, it's kind of
I
like
had a few clients with
you're
that.
you're walking down the road and you're going this way, and all of a sudden you go, squirrel, and you turn around and go over here.
Oh,
It's the
yeah.
same type of thing.
That's
So
in, yeah, that's in business as well. It's because I know
exactly
probably you
right.
met a lot of people like that. They're coming
Mm-hmm.
to you with ideas, and it's like, I want to do this, and they tell you this amazing idea about, I don't know, coaching. A month later, you meet someone for coffee again, and it's like, you know what? I just saw this amazing idea. I just want to go to gambling, and after another month, it's just I want to open the coffee shop, and it's just every month something different. And I call it same because that's exactly like people just like really attracted, or they're, I don't know, they just kind of like, yeah, that's beautiful, that sounds good, I want to do it. And it's never, it's taking you away from your journey. And I think that's really sad when I see some clients, they're really on the great way, they're doing things, and finally I can see they can achieve some goals, and they started to think about different ideas. I said, make a box, put your great ideas there,
Mm-hmm.
or make a list and just put it away. When you finish this first one and it will work, after that come back to your you can come back to your box and
Mm-hmm.
open your idea book and just do another one.
That's a good one. That's a good
Yeah.
one. So I have a little encouragement for you based on what you said at the beginning of our conversation. You had said that your business was dead because you do, I'm assuming you do live events and things of that nature.
Yes, that was a little bit different. Basically, what happened, we had basically fun events, outdoor
Mm-hmm.
events for
Oh,
families.
right.
It was event company. Of course, I just kind of didn't push through because of the quarantine and all
Mm-hmm.
that,
Mm-hmm.
restrictions. Then that every event canceled. That was for everyone, and I was not, different person. Everybody,
Mm-hmm.
all event companies kind of finished for this year. But I still tried. Basically, I'm trying to do another event for November or December with the
Mm-hmm.
city here because they still want to do as a first something. And I said, I want to be part
Sure.
of that. That
Sure.
means I guess it was just on a one spot on a zero because we didn't have profit. And I guess that happened a lot of
Yeah.
people. But all my life events regarding personal development or
Mm-hmm.
mentoring, that's why I said that actually is growing. And that's when
Oh, yeah.
you need to be
Absolutely.
flexible, and that's why I said I was not worried about that. I lost that income, but I wasn't really worried about that
Mm-hmm.
much because when I will just stuck there and be
Yeah.
staying and waiting, I guess nothing will happen and nothing will change for me. But I actually did a lot of different things, and I'm really happy because I had time to start my podcast that I actually tried to
Oh, there you
think
go.
about that. I started, like, I was thinking about that 1 year or 2 years, and I
Mm-hmm.
said, this is the time. I'm actually
Yeah.
at home
Perfect.
and in my office, stuck here. I can just buy microphone and all these things, and yeah, have fun with people. Especially you can meet a lot of people, and I think that's important.
Yeah, like you and I met on the internet.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
but
amazing.
no, I've heard stories. There was a woman who had a business doing birthday parties for children, totally live,
Yeah,
and
I saw that one. Yeah,
she actually was using Zoom, and she got extended families to be a part of this
yeah,
birthday party. And she actually is earning more money now than she did when she was doing them live because
yeah,
she's basically unlimited as far as where
yeah.
she can do this instead of being
And
limited to her local geographical area.
exactly. And she's not, and that's the thing, she's probably only one or only a few people doing that. And that's what I said is amazing when people start to think really out of the box and find a way to do things even in harder time. And I
Hmm.
think that's important. That's your resilience. And it's just all about the ideas and thinking out of box, I guess. That is very important for the business. But yeah, my last question is about, I would say, present and future. Like, what is your
Hmm.
plan? What is your next big plan?
Uh, well, my next big plan is to actually make a shift away from digital marketing and moving totally into the personal development space. That's one of the reasons why I called my friend. I didn't know it at the time
Yeah.
because I hadn't talked to him in a number of years. And when I was talking to him, this is one of these intuition things. The gratitude exercise I do in the morning, part of it is you ask universe, God, spirit, whichever you relate to, you ask for guidance for the day. And then you just be quiet, and then you let your mind receive whatever it is going to be, and then you write down whatever it is. And this gentleman's name happens to be Gary, and I got a very profound call, Gary. And so I went
Wow.
about my morning, and I talked to one of my sons. I try to connect with one of my children at least weekly. They're all adults now, which is kind of fun. They're not, yeah, it's kind of neat. But anyway, I called him up, and he had just got talking about timing and your intuition. He had just got back from going and running errands with his wife, and he had just sat down by his pool, and he was listening to the birds and enjoying the nature of his property. And I called him up, and he answered on the second ring. And I didn't I didn't set a time or anything. And we had a very, very good conversation. And I found out from what he was telling me, he had shifted. He used to write novels, and now he's working on his third personal development book. But the long story short is he is actually coaching people, and he's mentoring, and he's a speaker. And essentially that is, my values, that is what I want to function in, are my values. And that is coordinating teams and helping people through coaching and mentoring. And also, I'm one of these, I don't know if I'm an odd person or whatever, but speaking on stage energizes me, and it's not from a place of fear. There's a little, there's butterflies and that kind of thing. But I've been in seminars, and typically people will, if they get a chance to relate something that happened to them in the seminar, they'll talk to the speaker, who's on stage. And what I have a habit of doing is when I get the microphone, I acknowledge the speaker, and then I do a 180 and I look at the audience. And the last one I was at where I was doing this was 500 people. And I just, they were asking for takeaways from the previous session in the seminar. And so here's me visualizing myself on the stage and talking to this room of 500 people and just relating to them my story, because every good speaker is a really good storyteller.
Yes.
And so I am learning the art. You had mentioned signature talk. I just went to a seminar, and you talk about the power of digital. This was all done over Zoom, 2,500 people.
Yeah.
And the way it was done was so well done that you actually felt like you were in the room at a live seminar. And in some ways it was much better, because it was one of these, okay, we're going to teach you this. Now you do this exercise, and then you go into this smaller Zoom room, a breakout room, and you work with 4 to 6 people, and you work together for a period of time, and you're evaluating, and so I learned a lot more that way. And I can see that happening, a lot more. And one of the things that Proctor Gallagher Institute has done is Bob Proctor is going to be 86 years old in July. One of my goals is to actually shake his hand and meet him in person before he goes on to his next phase of life.
Yeah.
But it's this is what I aspire to do. And I have actually done some live seminars to a room full of chairs.
Yeah.
But the way I looked at people in the chairs, and the way I look at this, I'm gaining experience. And the point behind that is, Bob Proctor has spoken to thousands of people. And Tony Robbins is another good example. His very first seminar, I think he had 7 people in the room.
Yeah.
And he does seminars with 10,000 people.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. So it's all the point that I'm roundabout getting to, and the whole focus of what I'm trying to tell people is, no matter what you set your mind to do, you have to start it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you very much for that, because that's probably the best end of the conversation we can have. Because I agree, it's so, and I like your butterflies as well, because it's always great when you have feeling from the room, even if it's 7 people, even if it's 5 people, sometimes only 1 person, sometimes 10, and just the feeling that like you are leaving the meeting with feeling that you help someone and actually you added value. I think that feeling is amazing. And that's only what I always said, that's worth it. That's why we should all speak when we have something to say. Like, we should speak and we should help people, because it's very important.
Yeah. Nobody in the world has the same exact experiences and the same exact story as you do. So tell your story, because somebody or somebodies will learn something from your experience. And
Exactly.
it's
I,
proven fact.
yeah.
Proven fact.
Yeah, I believe somebody will learn something from our conversation as well, because
I hope
that's
so.
why we are doing that. And
Yes.
I will be happy. I will be asking you a few things at the end via email, just to be sure we can share your seminars, something about you, and people can connect
Okay.
you if they want to.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Oh, Alex, thank you for inviting me. It's been great talking to you all the way over there in Australia. And I
And we
didn't even
smile
get
a
on
lot.
a plane.
Yeah, how amazing. And we can laugh
Yeah.
and we can talk. No, it's amazing. I'm really happy that I was able to share your story to my audience, probably here in Australia or maybe in Slovakia